There's no business like show business.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
All systems go.
Good morning.
Prepare to be astonished.
Listen in your office, in your car, or even your neighborhood bar. You can listen with your whole family.
Is this the morning show you were dreaming about? Go back to sleep.
I enjoy that type of radio.
It is a group of people brought together because they share a common belief in what government should be like.
We don't need your education. We don't need your thought control.
That's a talent.
He's wacky, he's zany, wacky and zany. It's another wacky and zany show.
Good morning, Armstrong County. Welcome to the Monday edition, November 5th of David and Friends. Glad to have you with us. 48 degrees on the outside if you're looking at the Kittanning Citizens Bridge. Many of you are because you're watching us on the internet as well, and we have a feed looking at the flag. It's kind of standing down, not too bad of a day, 61 degrees. We'll have a little bit of sunshine through the clouds. It looks like it's going to be a pretty nice day before some rain again tomorrow. Great. That's exactly what we needed for Election Day, isn't it? Some more rain. Well, today I want to talk to you a little bit. We're going to just we're going to get a little bit more national in scope than what we normally do on the program. We like to stay local as much as we can, but I had the opportunity to have my friend join me this morning. She is a dynamic and inspirational national speaker. She works with the Tea Parties, and she's an activist and a pundit. She's worked on Fox News with some folks in Breitbart, and she is the founder of DidSheSayThat.com. Well, she does say that. She's a word meister in her own ranks. She's the vivacious, my friend, Sonnie Johnson. Good morning, Sonnie.
Good morning. How are you?
Great, great. I get you up early, did I, to go through this interview? But I'm glad you're here.
No, actually, I wanted to point out that just knowing that you keep your show focused on local issues and making sure that people are very, very aware of what is happening in their local government is like the highlight of everything that I do. I think that that's where we've gotten so far out off course, is that we've nationalized everything. And the most basic instrumental problems that face the American people are considered at the local level, and that's where we need to continue to have the most focus. So programs like yours that actually keep the focus where it belongs to save our republic are everything. So I really wanted to applaud you for that.
Thank you, Sonnie. I appreciate that. Today we will talk a little bit more national because I believe that somewhat the national air of politics is seeping into the state, seeping into the local level, especially our state level here in Pennsylvania, with the government or the governor race, also the Senate race between Mr. Casey and Mr. Barletta. And so I'm just curious on your view on the policies of our president right now. You know, does anyone really north of the Mason-Dixon line care if the illegals are getting ready to storm our borders in the South, or is this primarily a Southern thing, or why is Trump really fixated on that right now?
I think because we as the American people have continued to see this problem develop. And I think a lot of the baby boomers remember that time of Reagan, remember when they were made those promises, remember when they were said, okay, we're going to give amnesty to these people, but we're going to give border security as a compromise. And we ended up giving a lot of amnesty and never, ever securing our border. And now you look all these years later, and it is still a persistent problem in the United States that desperately needs to be solved. So I think that that's where you see Trump focus so much on this issue, because internally, outside of our national debt and an inability for Congress to actually pass laws for the people, our border and what is happening with people just constantly influxing and coming across unchecked, us not knowing who they are, why they're here, what their intentions are, and then the increase of drugs coming in, the increase of child trafficking, people trafficking that is coming across the border. All of those things seriously need to be addressed. And we've had a weak-kneed Republican and Democrat Party who would rather use it as a political issue than actually find a solution. And I think a lot of us questioned Trump if he was a conservative when he first started to run. And the one thing that I've always said about conservatives is that we never go for easy. We go for what is worth it. And I think that Trump is actually, through these actions, defining that he is a conservative. He is not going for the policies that are easy. He is going for the policies that are worth it and are going to actually affect our country in the future. And I think that in and of itself, he's defining himself to be a true conservative.
Over the years, we've looked at the differences between Democrat and Republican, but, as after Trump got elected, then it seemed like, man, that was now, it moved from just a river to a chasm that is so wide. Is this election really defining conservatism here in America?
I would hope that it is, but I want it to. But it's not, because it's centered directly around Trump. And this is not a criticism of Trump. It is a criticism of us who carry the conservative message. Under Obama for 8 years, the entire message was Obama for the Democrat Party. During that time span, they lost their ideology, they lost their footing about who they are and what they represent. So in 2010, they lost the House. And in 2012, they lost the Senate, both times when Obama was not on the ballot. And we should be learning from that. They forgot to define who they are and what they believe in. Everything was centered around Obama. And now we're kind of doing the exact same thing. Instead of, we can, yes, give Trump credit for what he's done and the moves that he's made. But at the same time, we have to be defining those moves as conservatism. Like, you can have this without Trump if you get a conservative Republican Party, which we don't currently have. And we could be taking that opportunity to define that a lot more than we currently are, because the left wants to make everything about Trump. So we go into defense mode of defending Trump. Our ideas, the idea of conservatism, what it actually means, how it defines us, how it falls in line with the Constitution, those things are not being discussed. And these are the moments that we lose those things. It's not in the moments when we're having the big conversations. It's in the moments that we forget to talk about what is most important to us. And I think that that's the opportunity that we are missing right now.
So what's a conservative to you?
To me, a conservative is someone who understands the idea of the individual first and foremost, that every right that is granted by God must be preserved in defense of the individual. That comes first and foremost above all things. And then once you get that, then you have the ability to manifest your dreams in any way that you see fit, using your freedom of speech, using your right to religion, using your right to petition your government, having your Second Amendment for defense. Like, all of those things come into play once you actually see with the idea of the individual. And then everything the Constitution holds after that. And then you get into the different subgroups of conservatism, whether it be Christian conservatism that bases more on the biblical founding of our country and how those things need to be preserved, or the fiscal conservatism that focuses on the economics of what conservatism does for the dollars and cents issues, and then also social conservatism, which actually focuses more on kind of the family unit and those kind of things. So you have the overarching subject of conservatism that actually focuses on the individual. And then you kind of have the subsets where people actually focus in on what matters most to them. And that, to me, kind of defines the overall aura of conservatism.
Well, you're talking about the fact that the Republicans haven't been able to put their message out there and be able to really say, this is what we are. I think Reagan had the same problem in 77. Let's take a listen.
Our guest today on Meet the Press is Ronald Reagan, former two-term governor of California and the man who challenged President Ford last year for the Republican presidential nomination. He's considered a possible contender for the GOP nomination again in 1980. Mr. Pettit?
You said ideology is a scare word like Hitlerism or something like that.
Yeah.
Senator Howard Baker said a party shouldn't have a philosophy. It should be ideologically sterile. Do you agree with that?
Well, I don't know just exactly what he meant by it, because in my thinking, a party only exists because of a cause.
Well, then you can't have it both ways.
Oh, yes. Now, wait a minute. Ideology is, I'm differing between that and philosophy and party policy. Ideology has a narrow connotation to people, and that's why I used the examples of Hitlerism and Marxist-Leninism.
Is that why you suggested the Republican Party change its name as a
No, I didn't suggest that. Gallup did, and I said that we ought to look and see if Mr. Gallup had reason for saying it. But let me just say this one thing about a party. If you analyze it, a party is not a social club. It's not an organization that said, let's have an organization. It is a group of people brought together because they share a common belief in what government should be like.
All right, so Sonnie Johnson's on the phone with me this morning, my friend. And Sonnie, you've been quoted to say we don't need a party or a movement to come in, but what we need is an ideology attached to what we're already doing. Talk about that.
Exactly, and I specifically was talking about the black community. I think that the black community is inherently conservative, but they don't know what that means, and I am an example of that. I have been conservative my whole life. I just didn't know what the title was. And it wasn't until I actually got into politics and actually started dissecting these things that I realized I was a conservative. Most of my family are conservatives. Most of my friends are conservative, but they're all Democrats. And that became my personal mission, is to kind of understand what the disconnect is. And it's really a cultural disconnect. And so we come at conservatism from a different path, but we still reach it nonetheless. And you have kind of those subsets of conservatism. They come at it from a different reason, whether it be Christian-based, whether it be fiscally based, or whether it be more social value-based. Everybody comes at conservatism from a different direction, for different reasons, for a different kind of belief. But they have the same ideology in mind. They still have that idea of a limited government working as a republic should work. They still have that idea of government closest to the people and the federal government having as least amount of influence over their life as humanly possible. We all come to that central belief, but we all get there differently. And what I have found out is that conservatives are just not listening to black people when they talk about some of the issues that are plaguing their communities. So, like, we as conservatives will say, if you just pull yourself up by your bootstraps, if you just graduate high school, then you'll have a chance to make it in America. Well, if you're in a black neighborhood and every school is failing beyond 30% in your neighborhood, and you have to go to those schools because that's the way that they are districted off, you are not going to have the same amount of success as someone who went to a passing high school in America. So your high school may have had a wood shop program. Your high school may have had a mechanic shop program and actually gave people who are not, very, very smart in the book subjects an actual chance to be able to be successful in their hands. Black schools have taken all of that out. So you have no entrance into trade. You have no entrance into these careers that can make them come out of high school viable and ready to be a part of the workforce, which some of the other school districts still keep. So it is a fallacy for us to say, well, if you just go to this failing school, then you will have a real shot at the American dream. That's not true. And we need to start understanding that just because in some of these conservative districts that is a truth, it is not a truth for every single district, especially the ones that have been under progressive control for 60 years or more. So we need to stop nationalizing every argument and start realizing that, yes, in your conservative neck of the woods, this may not be a problem. But in these more progressively dominated areas, it is a very big problem. And if we want to start taking over those areas, then we have to actually understand that these problems really do exist. And that's again, why I gave you so much props at the beginning about keeping everything local. We don't have that in the black community right now. No differing opinion, no fighting about what is actually happening on a local level and how we can solve these things. There is no conservative option being offered in these communities. So to ask why they don't choose Republicans, It's a really simple answer. There is no Republican there fighting for them. So that is what I hope we change in the next 2 to 6 years under President Trump, that we actually have a Republican Party at the end of this that actually wants to go in these communities and actually tell them what conservatism means, how it will change the face of their community, and how it will make a difference and be better for them. Not just go in and say you're on a plantation and Democrats are making you slave. No. We have a great product to sell. We have a great message to sell. Our ideology will solve these problems. We just need to put ourselves in a position that we can actually offer it as an option.
But Sonnie, let me ask you this. Are you just doing a verbal flashcard going over the basics here, or are you paving roads into this new territory?
I'm paving roads into this new territory. I don't accept or settle for what I have seen over my 10 years at watching this movement, being a part of it. I have shown up for Republicans and conservatives when the Iran deal was on the table, when the IRS was on the table, when Obamacare was on the table, when every single big issue Republicans needed everybody galvanized together to go after and fight. I was right there in the middle of the fight. And now I am telling Republicans and conservatives that it is now time for you to show up for us just like we showed up for you. And that means actually taking these fights into some of these cities. Like, you're in Pennsylvania. Do you know that there are the 18 districts that just got recalibrated by the Supreme Court? The 18th district does not even have a Republican candidate running. But there's actually a black woman running in that district. The Republican Party would not put her on the ballot as a write-in candidate, and it was some kind of flip-flop between her being able to get on the ballot from the primary process. So the 18th district in your state now has no Republican down ticket to take that seat for Congress. And those are things that we have to change. We legitimately have candidates who want to run in these areas, but Republicans look at it and they say, we can't win. It's no use in even trying or putting funds into it or actually putting any effort into it. And what I like to remind them of is that we now have Alexandria Cortez in New York, a district they said could not be won. She could not take out the incumbent. He's been there over 20 years, solidly his seat. She went out with no support, no help, no anything, and she took over an entire district. That is something that we can start looking at while we're laughing at them and actually start emulating it instead. And that's where we need to be putting our focus. We cannot keep going every 2 years from election to election, being the most important election, while in the process we never solve anything. That has to change.
We're in Armstrong County, you know that, and not Washington, D.C., and so we still use plain old telephone service here for many of us because it works well. We don't change just because something new comes down the line. So in the next 30 seconds, because we have to get out of here pretty soon, but in the next 30 seconds, just break down for the farmers, for the senior citizens that are here in Armstrong County, and for the business people. What does this election mean?
This election means what are we going to fight for next, and we have to understand that. If you get out and vote, we elect Republicans, then the next fight is going to be continuing to fix the Republican Party. If you do not get out and vote, if you do not support the Republican policies, then the next fight is going to be trying to get Democrats to stop abusing their power within the House to punish Republicans for Donald Trump winning. That is basically what it boils down to. Either we're going to fight to fix this Republican Party or we're going to fight Democrats as they choose to destroy it. And basically, I think that's what it comes down to.
All right, there you have it. It's Sonnie Johnson with me this morning, my friend. You can find out more about her, DidSheSayThat.com. DidSheSayThat.com. Stay with us. We're going to be back for the wrap right after this. Don't go away. 23 past 9 o'clock on David and Friends.
Back to earth for Penn State. Good morning. This is sports from Radio PA. The Nittany Lions entered Ann Arbor for a date with Michigan Saturday. They fell to the Wolverines 42-7. Running back Miles Sanders was held to just 14 yards on 7 carries. He says they did not execute the game plan.
Just got to play hard. Every game we got to play hard. We got to match each team's intensity. We just got to execute. Like I said, offensively, we just got to execute better.
Penn State was held to just 186 total yards. To the NFL, and the Steelers made it 4 wins in a row Sunday, defeating the Ravens on the road 23-16. Ben Roethlisberger passed for 270 yards and 2 touchdowns. He says the team is fully confident.
Offensively, I mean, we feel that we can go do what we want to do. We've got roadblocks, which are great defenses and other teams trying to stop us. But we've always said, and it's never disrespect to their team, is they don't stop us, we stop ourselves.
James Conner rushed 24 times for 107 yards. In the NBA, the Sixers fell to the Nets in Brooklyn 122-97 Sunday. Brett Brown admits the Sixers are not the class of the NBA by any means.
At this moment, after 11 games, that's not where we are. And that's okay. That's okay. This group does have fight. This group does have pride. And we will find a way to move on, move up, move forward. And that's my job.
Ben Simmons led with 20 points in the loss. To the NHL, the Penguins host the Buffalo Sabres this evening. Mike Sullivan was asked if the Pens were outskated in the 5-0 loss Saturday to the Maple Leafs.
When you get outplayed, you don't win puck battles. You don't support the puck. You don't play the game collectively as a group. I think you can look slower than you are.
The Flyers end their Western road trip tonight against the Coyotes, and Kevin Harvick won the AAA Texas 500 at Texas Motor Speedway in Fort Worth Sunday. That's sports. I'm Tori Gates.
I'm Eric Laubert, and I'd like to talk about addiction. One of the worst things about substance use disorder is the stigma attached to it. Labels like junkie or druggie don't help anyone, and the stigma and shame can prevent some people from seeking treatment. Many of us have outdated ideas that are only informed by stereotypes in movies and TV shows. In reality, substance use disorder is the result of a gradual rewiring of the brain's hardware and software. Choices made early on turn into cravings that are incredibly difficult to control. But many people have won this fight and are leading healthy, productive lives. Meet a few of them at talkaboutaddiction.tv. And if you have questions or want to talk to somebody, call the crisis line at 877-333-2470. Labeling and stereotyping are not helping. Go to talkaboutaddiction.tv to learn more. Remember, recovery and prevention are possible if we talk about it. Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
The best way to start your day.
Rise and shine!
David and Friends on WTYM Kittanning.
Welcome back to the program today, and as we just had that interview with my friend Sonnie Johnson, she is hot stuff in the political world right now. She is pretty amazing. So appreciated what she had to say today. Maybe challenging us on a different level. We like to do that once in a while. There are a lot of things that happened over the weekend, and you can check it out in today's Kittanning paper because it is online right now, and of course in print and available throughout most of Armstrong County. One of the interesting things that I wanted to talk about today, but had the opportunity to talk to Sonnie, so we kind of jumped over it. But perhaps tomorrow we'll definitely deal with it more in its totality. Over the weekend, last Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, they had up in Reimersburg, they had their Christmas present. Now that's an organization or the event that they have that actually brings crafters into the area, local crafters who then set up at churches and they set up at fire halls and just every place that opens to them, the library. And they sell their wares and they have them available, but it is just an amazing thing. It's been going on for 30 years. I've never attended it until recently, this past weekend. And I went, wow. I mean, you talk about something, and it even extends over into Sligo. It's amazing how they have just basically brought all this in, and then the tourism, the people began to come there, just like they come here for Fort Armstrong Folk Festival. Well, they come there and they go place to place to place. There's a map where you can go and where all these places are. Just amazing. So tomorrow we're going to be having some interviews. Some of these people have exciting things to tell, like Audrey Flick, who began this thing 30 years ago in her home, and she called it a log cabin Christmas, and she's still doing it. I said, how long are you going to do this? Oh, maybe another year or two. She wouldn't commit, but just amazing. So that's hopefully tomorrow. I want to see if we can go out today on another deal that happened last night. It was the Shaped Note Singers that was at the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Worthington. And so I just want to kind of kick that into gear and kind of take us out with it today on David and Friends, because if you weren't there, if you didn't hear them, That was a pretty amazing thing. So let's go back and kind of listen to them as we go out. Have a great day, everyone. By the way, thank you for being my friend.
Talking about WTYM.
Listen to it in the car.
In the car. The all-new 103.7 FM. WTYM. Kittanning.